Today we're going to talk about a fascinating topic of hypoxia and of course energy. Why energy? Because I mentioned several times hypoxia is beneficial for longevity, beneficial for mitochondria, and in overall quite beneficial if it's controlled and limited. So we're coming back a little bit to energy, and I want to remind you where this energy come from. First of all, the energy we call in human resources, we call ATP or adenosine triphosphate. It's a universal energy molecule, is a currency in our organism that our cells, nearly every single cells produce that. And the power bank who is doing that, of course, is mitochondria. It's super important. Mitochondria live in every single cell, a part of blood red cells, and produce using glucose or ketones. And so literally mitochondria is using these resources. Usually it's glucose, preferably glucose, that organism trying to produce, breaking down everything in the fats and proteins, fructose, short starches, everything, and consume it. So brain, as we know, use 20%. Tiny little brain, average 3%, depends on your body weight, taking 20% of our energy. So literally mainly using our energy when we are at rest is our brain. So it's never on the rest. And I want to highlight brain because mitochondria in the brain they're special mitochondria. They function in there much longer and is a little bit harder to regenerate them. That's why dementia so far is said as unavoidable disease in terms of longevity. And we in science are trying to find out what we can do to increase longevity and increase the turnover of mitochondria all over our body and of course in the brain. So energy is not just cellular, our subjective vitality and mood, our drive for living, for the life, our energy, our personality is really depends on our energy production. So what is mitochondria? We already said it's super important power cells for not only producing energy, it's our life. And sadly, they're not forever, and sadly, they do degrade as we age. That's why mitochondria is getting less alive. They're getting less active, more swollen, because older they get, more influence of the different toxic substances we explode. That much, so many different ways, so many different things that we can count probably endlessly how many things affected us. And they convert an oxygen with nutrients to the energy. So here oxygen is a key important molecule, because we need oxygen to produce. The mitochondria need this oxygen, and when we have differences in this oxygen in terms of our location where we're based, our mitochondria adapts and producing energy in different way. And flexibility is super important for all of us. We're so flexible, and more flexible we will be, longer and better we can live. So with age, mitochondria decline. Mitochondria we can define, I would say, unofficial classification, 3 different groups: white, gray, and black mitochondria. White one is super healthy. The gray one is already swollen, a little bit malfunctioning. Black one is literally dead mitochondria. They can't produce any more energy, and our cells trying to destroy them. But also mitochondria, then they feel that part of mitochondria, one part of the area of mitochondria getting damaged, it can cut it off. Literally, the mitochondria can split on 2 different sides, saying, listen, you are quite bad, you're pulling me back, you're pulling me down, and I have to separate from you. And for the second part, if mitochondria are too small and there is no energy, there's not power enough for them, and they see another mitochondria who's small enough, they combine, getting stronger, they get united. And then they can split, when you get and grow together, they can split into half mitochondria. So it's different way how mitochondria multiply and how the mitochondria is actually looking on the activity, giving us more energy. So it's super important to have less as possible black mitochondria or even gray, and motivate and boost our organism to be flexible, detect them, and effectively regenerate them, bin them, and recycle them. Yeah, so eat, find them, identify, and do that. And of course, a different sort of stress helping us. Yeah, so stress is not all bad, is also beneficial. And then we have a lack of oxygen, or too much of oxygen, we affect the mitochondria, and we affect in this production of our energy. So is beneficial, that is controlled and short period of the time with very good recovery after that, and quite dangerous if it's ongoing. So that's why today we're going to discuss how to identify our oxygen level. Are you in danger, or you are in regenerative and longevity pathway? So then the mitochondria is gray, swollen, a little bit malfunctioning, or black. We start to feel fatigue. So all mitochondria, they produce them, but they're not mature enough, and they can't find the couple to get power, like combine and getting stronger mitochondria to give you this energy. And so many factors involved in that. So that's why older they get, more malfunctioning, or this immature mitochondria. So they might be split, part of them getting black, part of them gray, and they can see in terms of science, of course, that from age of 60 they have severe increase of such mitochondria, and then coming up every single year. So we hope very soon we'll have different mitochondria therapy. Then we'll be able to extract these mitochondria out of us in the bloodstream, or cell where you want this to the cells to be targeted, grow them, and inject them back. But they are in the moment science in early stages, in the early years, but hopefully in future, our children, grandchildren, or even, who knows, maybe us, will be able to witnessing and going for a new regeneration procedure. But so far, we're at the moment not there yet. We have to learn about available oxygen, what's going on, about the mountains, about the sea level, and under the sea levels, what's going on, and how we can benefit and use resources what we have up to date. So hypoxia can act as regeneration to stimulate mitochondria renewal and repair. So renewal, that means they can split, remove the bad, swollen and gray parts of mitochondria, or it might absolutely detect better the black dead mitochondria, neutralize them, and also they can promote the new mitochondria, and little mitochondria can go together and give us more energy later on. So that's why today we're gonna dive a little bit more and understand the principle. So mood and energy connection. We know that anxiety and mental health, they are absolutely thriving. Mental health, we know that linked to the sugar, to ultra-processed food, and of course to overproduction of energy and overconsumption of fat, salt, and sugar. They are overfed as never before in human history, and this is a tragedy. Yeah, the human never experienced the, I would say, animal world. A human never experienced being so overwhelmed with nutrition that usually organism is sick, and the cell want to store for later, for winter, for nighttime. But now we're just overeating. So that's why if you want to live a little bit longer, a little bit better, just eat less. Please eat less sugar, and directly very energy sufficient, but something will cause you a lot of energy, mainly if you have a mood issues. So if your mood go up and down, if you suffer from anxiety, if you trouble with sleep, because excess of energy is the drive for your anxiety, agitation, irritation, insomnia. You know, all these emotions, they coming out of us, including alcohol. We forget to give you lots of energy. It's not that alcohol is energy, it's not water, you know, it's very really affecting us. So, and of course, neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin are energy dependent and more given to us. For one part, yes, we have this drive and eat sugar, we want to go. But for second part, it's too much. Also, we losing that, yeah, and they have apathy, you know. And of course, when you give too much work, overload mitochondria, what mitochondria? Just mitochondria giving up. They say, listen, guys, I can't do this anymore. It's endless, and they can't cope anymore. And remember, mitochondria, they have to have these tiny little breaks as well. We can't run marathons all the time. They need to have a peaceful time. They need to, do their own housekeeping. Which mitochondria is bad, which one is good, and tidy up and doing recycling within. So we need to give our mitochondria, our organism, this rest. They're not overwhelmed by too much work producing this energy, because you're providing them more and more and more this fat, alcohol. Oh, it's too much work. Imagine our organism, our cells, if you suffer from the food. What do you eat? What do you give to your organism to work on? And excuse me, you can't run marathons at all time and work in 24 hours, day and night. You need sometimes have a rest. So in this rest for your mitochondria as well, for your organism, not only detox, but this is let them to do their job, cleansing and I would say decluttering bad mitochondria and tidying up and give you this energy. And sometimes you need a lot of time. You can imagine you just move, you have a mess house. How long does it take you to tidy up and declutter? It's not one day, it's not two, yeah, it's months, sometimes even longer. Yeah, so what is hypoxia? Hypoxia is limited oxygen that insufficient for our tissue, for our cell, for demand of a tissue to produce this energy. So usually is lack, usually is normal amount of oxygen, and then in the bloodstream get delivered much less oxygen than before. And of course, it might be different reasons why it's happening. It might be abnormal and a low blood oxygen, and they have a local or the whole body affected, and they controlled hypoxia might be beneficial because you should comply, you should have a good health. If you don't have a good health, that might be not beneficial for you. Okay, how we measure hypoxia? You probably saw these tiny little devices. So these devices, they're called pulse oximeter. Then you go to the hospital. Unlucky person who's been in the hospital, you probably know, they put their doctors put, and then they count your pulse and how much oxygen circulating. And for example, 98%, and my pulse now 82, quite high for me, because I'm talking and excited to talk about my favorite topics. So how is percentage hemoglobin blood with oxygen? So this measure is a very good device. I recommend you to have it if you want to diet and look after your health. It's really handy to have. Or understand how different illnesses or respiratory problem, or you have suffering from asthma or COVID, long COVID, or you're going to the high in the mountains and you don't know how you're going to respond. It's very handy to have it. So with the normal percentage, we'll see it'll be 95 to 100%. We expect it in a normal environment. Then they're not in the mountains. We are healthy for different environments. So I just measure 98% because I'm talking probably usually in the rest it might be 99%, so I'm absolutely fine. Mild hypoxia will be around from 90 to 94. That's already happening. Then you might have some sort of respiratory issues, some sort of ongoing dysfunction, or you might go a little bit high in the mountains. Moderate will count from 75 to 89%. So that's already quite significant. You might feel already discomfort, and severe is over 75. So under 75, sorry. So how to measure it? This is probably the most obvious and most available type. Then we can arterial blood gas and near infrared spectroscopy. Mainly for measuring this in the brain and in the muscle for the research for specific cases. And of course, They might be handy if you're training, if you want to go to Everest, for example, or you don't know how you're going to respond to different environments. Please, good hack to have at home. So, how's effect in altitude? And if you want to train yourself, I know a lot of people want to go to mountains, hiking or skiing or Everest, or they believe they want to be this Superman or whatever, hiking very, very high up in altitude. At 2,000 meters above the sea, they might have already 92 to 94. It's a mild drop and usually asymptomatic. So you will feel okay. If you might be a little bit sleepy, a little bit less energy, because mitochondria is my response, but it really depends on your general age, your physical activity, and of course how trained you are to be in the mountains and physical activity there. At 3,000 meters, you got more noticeable reduction from 88 to 94, and you might notice you might have already headaches and fatigue. And again, here person to person varies. It's so important to know your specific metabolism. It might be your sugar levels. I'm going to talk about them all. This is a general, if you say the healthy, metabolically absolutely healthy adult. And over 4,000 meters, 80 to 90, you might have already mountain sickness, and over 5,000 meters is dangerous, and you might have unexpected death. Without acclimatization, without practice, without a careful approach, you might not make it. So don't play with altitudes. Don't think that it's very easy to go to mountains and hiking, and don't over put your organism under the stress. Yes, there is a lot of benefits, but also a lot of questions and a lot of red flags I want to discuss with you today. So other causes of hypoxia: respiratory problems. It might be severe allergy reaction, might be asthma, pneumonia, it might be airway blockage. So it's very important, if you notice that certain symptoms, just check, and you will know where you're standing and what's going on. Do you need medical help? You can approach your local pharmacy or nurse or local hospital, or just talk to your GP if you're worried about it. And there is concern if it's dropping significantly and you feel discomfort, because that's affecting your mood, that's affecting your energy levels, and recovery after that will take longer. Longer you will be in this deprived condition, longer than you need to recover. And recovery here is the key after every single exposure to hypoxia. Yeah, so it's medical. I mean, that's been different medical condition that trigger that, or is you deliberate location, like you're going into the mountains high up. So remember, restoration and recovery here is the key to benefit for everything. So that's why it's important to understand. If you notice that, if you're feeling that, allow yourself time and take it seriously to recover. Then you'll be fine and even thrive better. It doesn't even need to be always a little illness, you get stronger. Remember, not killing us, making us stronger. Mutate and try to kill us again. But we're getting stronger and stronger. So heart disease, a different heart attack, pulmonary embolism, anemia, carbon monoxide poisoning, cellular disease, mitochondria dysfunctions, different type of poisoning, apnoea, snoring, and again, so many different factors that can cause in us this hypoxia. Okay, hypoxia and hormetic stress. It's a beneficial effect in a low dose of stress, and this is what we're talking then we go into mountains or very special mask, the control. We know there's no any triggers, but what we should understand and what we should expect. Hypoxia stimulates pro-inflammatory pathways. That means every single inflammation what you got before, it might be dormant, or you got it, or have inflammation disease, might spread out, might worsen. So it might be, I don't know, it might be eczema, psoriasis. It might be, I don't know, any type of different chronic condition, inflammatory chronic condition. I heard so many cases when people went to the mountains and then nearly life-threatening, between life and death condition, because inflammation gets worse and it spikes high up. So check yourself, or don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if uncovered or unknown inflammation hit you. Take it seriously, and ideally check yourself before you go into the mountains. Check yourself before you put yourself under this stress, and check yourself after exposure, after any illnesses. So that's why then we have respiratory issue, I don't know, any cold or even COVID, so many other underlying conditions start to kick in, yeah, because hypoxia is stimulating inflammation. As a result, mitochondria is splitting and working harder. Why? Because, as we discussed, mitochondria, they need this oxygen. And now there is lack of oxygen. And mitochondria are thinking, oh, come on, all the mitochondria, come on, they can't do the job. What's going on? So we need to produce this energy, but there's not oxygen, and without oxygen, it's material. We need this molecule. We have sugar, we have everything. So what is going on? Usually your organisms start to use more sugar. The mitochondria start to work harder and harder. And then, because they get angry, so excuse me, we're working much harder, we need to now try using a lot of glucose to produce this energy. But the bad mitochondria is there. What are you doing, guys? Oh, we're lazy, we're watching telly, we don't want to do anything. And get angry. With different words, they tighten up and they start to work under the stress. And drama is happening, internal cellular level drama, mitochondrial drama. And they start to fight and they start to kick out and destroy the bad mitochondria, split from bad, because the survival condition, who's going to survive, who's going to die. And of course the healthy side of mitochondria doesn't want anymore to look after the grey one, and they split. Yeah, so what's happening is quite good stuff, because this bad one part after that, they're going to split mitochondria too. There's a body, well, hardly walking, malfunction mitochondria usually go to degradation and dies. And as a result, the new mitochondria later, 2-3 weeks after, depend on location, start to grow. Yeah, and as a result, yes, it was the drama. It's a very difficult situation for in the cellular world in mitochondria. There is a lot of family dramas there. They destroy, they argue, they separate, they united. So good activity going on a lot. And as at the end, the bodies have to go, and they get regenerated. And of course, it's a great process, unless there is not too much great and black. Because if it's too much, if you're already deprived, if your organism already overwhelmed by swelling and malfunctioning, the good white mitochondria might be not able to do the job. They split from the grey and they can't cope, and then you might be in severe trouble. So if you've got high altitude and less oxygen, there is more and more risk, and this risk linked to your general well-being. So if you have a lot of underlying medical condition in you, of course, you're getting older and you're not trained, your chances that you will be worse off increasing. Yeah, it's very important to understand that preparation here is the key, and recovery after exposure to this hypoxia is super important. And I want you to understand what exactly is going on, and if you feel it in several levels. Understand there is a dizziness, where is the weakness coming from, there is sleepiness come from, because our organ is trying to save up our energy and saying, oh yeah, that's it, it doesn't want to work, can't work anymore, we need a little bit more rest, and they need to tidy up, declutter internal kingdom, mitochondrial kingdom, to produce you and provide you sufficient of energy. So hopefully that was understandable. I'm trying to explain you in the good understandable language. So as a result, increased number of effective mitochondria, because as I said, if one side of mitochondria was a little bit damaged, now we're good, yeah, that has split the better gone. and this mitochondria get more confident. Yeah, so it's not ashamed anymore. It's, ugly parts of themselves, and they have more efficient. After they grow, they might mate after that another good mitochondria, probably two small mitochondria, and then they're united together, and they're powerful, they're big, they give you this energy to thrive, and they might split again to two healthy mitochondria, and so on. So it's a circus, and they're very active there. As a result, they have more energy. You see, and that takes time. So it's not overnight. Overnight, black and gray mitochondria can die. So that's why this short period of time you might feel discomfort. You might feel sleepy. You might feel tired. You might feel what I'm doing here. But within the time, after approximately 1 week or two, you start to feel benefits. The most of the benefits usually is around 2 to 3 weeks after controlled hypoxia. So it stimulates red blood cells production, because red blood cells, first of all, they don't have mitochondria in there. And they bring oxygen, improve oxygen transportation, and enhance metabolic flexibility, because people who are pre-diabetic, there's like not diabetic yet, they're pre-diabetic. Our organs use a lot of glucose, and I have a lot of glucose in that bloodstream. So it's great for them, and is not great for people with hypoglycemia. Somebody like me, who don't have a lot of sugar in there, I'm actually in a danger risk. I need to be careful if I go in the mountains. I'm not there often, so it's fine. It's reduced inflammation, improved blood vessels health. Actually, with science, it's already proved that after hypoxia, we have more new blood vessels get produced. Yeah, because again, it was lack of oxygen, and it's a lot of regeneration process. And we know in longevity is quite beneficial, because increasing NAD plus and pathways, it's repairing our DNA as well. So that's why it's pluses, minuses. Not plus and minuses, it's a circle of regeneration, and what we need to understand and take it with care and knowledge. So athletes using training, they deliberately going hiking in the mountains, for example, or they cyclists. We know these cyclists that do train in the mountains a lot, because it's the best way to build up the endurance. And oxygen's efficiency is super important. So that's why if you're in the mountains, you probably see a lot of professional cyclists who are cycling up and down, and that will help and support them endurance for races or different, competitions if they do it professionally. It's very good for rehabilitation. As I said, pre-diabetic people, controlled diabetes, that might be beneficial, because the organ is using a lot of sugar, because it's such an energy-consuming process that people with lung disease might need train under professional supervision. Here I want to telling you so many side effects and so many chronic conditions, so many things might be avoided if you only knew before you go explode yourself, even to the normal ski trip. If somebody heard about different events and coming back, like after that exploding infection, get ill, have some sort of sepsis or some sort of really unexpected condition, is more than expected. You just need to do the right test and understand where you're going. Yeah, and then, but there's no awareness. There's nobody talking about it. Nobody explain us what's going on, and the doctors and pharmacists welcoming us. Then it's too late. They're already in the hospital, and they know this device already when we are coming through intravenous and admitted to the hospital. So I don't want this to happen. That's why I'm explaining you step by step what we need to do to prevent these hospital appointments and severe inflammation and severe side effects. Not side effects, but normal processes, what's going on. So in longevity, live longer, we know there's research in neuroprotection and energy regeneration, because mitochondria in the brain, they live there a long time and it's quite hard to regenerate them. Yeah, so it's not like the liver is not turned over that much. So it's been for years and years. So of course, train them or identify the bad one and maintain them in a good condition, super important. And here, of course, if you have anxiety, if you have mental issue, walking in the mountains, again, under control, under supervision, under understanding what's going to happen with you, might be super beneficial. And then after a few weeks time, or even as we said in brain, take a little bit slow process. After a few months, you feel so much better. So if you notice that, just keep your diary. Go to the mountains. Doesn't matter in terms of season. You might go in the spring, winter, summer, whatever you feel more comfortable. Because I'm not scared, but with my low sugars, I'm not a big adorers of the mountain. I love it as well. I love it. Never been very high. Maybe I will. But again, if you're hypoglycemic, if you have a low sugar, you can go that unless you check what is your response. Yeah. So if you have a low sugar, you just make sure you eat regularly. You check your sugar levels regularly, and you check how your body responds to that, and you'll be all right. Yeah, I want to try, and definitely I will try. Okay, so what types of hypoxia protocols? So altitude rooms, mimicking masks, you can hire them. Sometimes people who are going to want to go to, I don't know, Everest, they can hire these different masks. We're creating this altitude around 2 to 4,000 meters altitudes. There is hypoxia chambers, and you can even cycle, you can do physical activity for around 10 minutes, and then you can recover. I saw them, they're quite expensive, but they're now getting more and more available. They cost around, various different prices and different chambers, whatever. It's easier, so you can put the mask on and you can do physical activity, to boost that and prepare yourself. And more important, monitor your sugar, monitor your blood pressure, your heart rate, and monitor how you respond to that activity, and do it slowly, and ideally never do it alone. Yeah, please make sure you have a trained person, you're fully supported, and you have proper journaling of your condition, where you're going, and of course information. Yeah, make sure you do your blood test, checking your pro-inflammatory interleukins, all that pro-inflammatory proteins in the body before and after the training, and see where you're standing and where you're going. So in terms of cycling, cyclists, I said, they do it quite often. They train high up in the mountains and then go down. And so I saw a lot of times the cyclists bring by the car, bring in the high altitude by their trainers, and then they go down. So they start high and then slowly going down the hill. They get endurance and the strength, and we're getting much more, I would say, resilient to diving and apnea training. So we know that you can train with holding your breath. So please don't do it yourself or by yourself, to make sure you don't faint, and it might be fatal. So that's why don't do it by yourself, because you think you're a guru with ChatGPT or YouTube videos. No, make sure you talk to healthcare professionals and you know your limits. If you do that, make sure somebody's by your side and looking after you, because so many things can happen. It's not that straightforward. Start slow, but yes, free divers, they experience both. They hold the breath, so they don't have oxygen, and they are in the environment with a lot of oxygen, because they dive into under the water depth. So we improve oxygen use, and of course mitochondrial resilience is the double action. It's slightly a little bit more complicated, but there is a lot of risks about it. You might have a blackout, you might have seizures and sudden death. So if you're untrained and you don't know how to do it, so that's why make sure you are with qualified divers, with qualified mountains hikers, or I don't know how to call them, different professionals or healthcare professionals specializing in altitude training or physical activity. Is really required step-by-step measurements and supervision. So practical attitude toward hypoxia, if you just want trained and you want improve and challenge yourself and regenerate yourself, make sure you do it with control. Make sure you check your oxygen saturation. Make sure you wearing your continuous glucose monitoring, because your glucose will fluctuate and go down. So I want you to see exactly what's going on. So you might have a finger prick regularly, it's just painful, or you can have a continuous glucose monitoring as well. You can see the ketone production, then your glucose goes down, how it produces ketones. Blood pressure is super important, your heart rate, how your heart responds to changes of oxygen. And outside is not always beneficial for everyone, so make sure you check all your biomarkers before you record them, and then take it slow. So take it slowly. Okay, what are the risks for somebody like me who have a low sugar level or unstable sugars? Might be diabetes, might be reactive hypoglycemia, it might be type 1 or type 2 diabetes, or people who are just more insulin resistant, for example. Hypoxia glucose affecting glucose metabolism and increase significantly these fluctuations. So if you're diabetic, expect you might need changing your insulin dosage. And if you're hypoglycemic, make sure you change your food intake, because that might affect your nocturnal or night shifts in your glucose. And if you're reactive as me, you might have spikes up and down. So as well, might be quite dangerous comparison to the normal environment. Type 2 diabetes might be worsened if not monitored. So people with glucose issues and energy problems, make sure you check it before. And ideally, you monitor it during this activity time. So even if you're going for a ski trip, winter time, just for fun, are you sure you know what you're doing? Yeah, so because so many accidents there already, so it's quite dangerous. But let's minimize these risks simply by knowing what's going on, and make it safe as possible for our loved ones and for us, of course. Cardiovascular issues. So here, of course, we're talking mainly about your blood pressure and your heart rate. So if people have some sort of issue, inflammation, again, any long COVID, underlying conditions might affect in your heartbeat or inflammation of your heart tissues. It's very important to know if you're going to attitude up or down, that might be affected. So make sure you check your blood pressure rate and heart rate. So if it's abnormal, maybe be a little bit more cautious or aware of what potentially can happen. Arrhythmias as well might get worse, and as well unstable angina and cardio muscle issues. If you have any of those, make sure you're prepared and you have probably ECG if needed, or you consult your doctor before you go for such trip. Other side effects, as already discussed, hypoxia, temporarily increasing inflammation spikes. So that means if you have somewhere inflammation or autoimmune inflammation, that might get worse. Yeah, so please expect that. You might have more nausea, you might have headaches, you might have a more poor sleep. Again, poor sleep might be so many different factors. Stuff from hormonal changes, glucose, and of course it's all linked to this energy, yeah, because we're limited. We're limited in this time. In some occasions, men and women with beautiful hair, and I think every younger woman love hair. Girls, if you decided to go high up in the mountains, expect you might lose your hair. That's crazy, because skin is quite sensitive, yeah, and that is my topic, skin field. And if you're going to high hypoxia level, and hair follicles might literally need oxygen or be not enough of oxygen as well, and you will lose huge amount. They'll grow back, but might be effect in some people. Maybe if you go to Everest and super high altitude, you might lose a lot of hair. Your skin might be absolute disaster. There's full skin regeneration depend on the damage of the skin layers, might take up to 3 months. Yes, so that is the same 3 to 6 months approximately. This is the time. As for your nails as well, might be affected. Nail plate, yeah, because you explode all the tissues. So skin, nails, and hair might be affected, and if you start to lose them, bear in mind that can happen. The higher altitude you go up, the higher risk. Yeah. So unless you know, but don't worry in terms of you lose them, they will be regenerated, so they will be back to you. But I think might be a little bit uncomfortable. It might be a little bit, but once you're aware, once you know about it, you know what you're doing, you know what's going to happen. Don't be surprised and have a plan. I don't know, hair pieces or I don't know, Photoshop, whatever you prefer. But I just want to know. And the men who don't have a lot of hair, the bald guys will be even bolder. Yeah, so, or if you have not that bald, you know, this men who are losing the hair, you know, just not bald yet. And then this is a good risk, good chance for you to get in bolder than you've been before. So you may not have a struggling for different reasons. Alopecia, different sort of women, for example, the same alopecia, expect they might get back. And in this case, that might be forever. That might be forever, yeah, because it's already struggling with nutrition, with oxygen, with regeneration, with blood circulation. And if you boost it even longer, that will be hard. So I just covered that. I just explained what can happen, and this has happened. Don't worry, everything is going how it should be. So you're in professional hands of nature, of biology. So pre-exposure checklist, again, and again. If you're going to the mountains, if you're going for the trip, for the lovely holidays, or you decided to go on the Everest and high up mountains, you just go there. So I was spontaneous. Make sure you know, and you do a checklist. You do your ECG, you check your blood pressure, you check your glucose and your hemoglobin and inflammation biomarkers. So we don't want you to go with uncontrolled blood pressure, with uncontrolled diabetes or uncontrolled heart diseases, and make sure you have all your control devices with you, or you are with under professional, healthcare professional by your side. So begin with low intensity hypoxia. Make sure you spend a few days, or if you're tripping or you're going for the ski trip, make sure you start with 2,000 meters above the sea and you go slowly higher and you adapt slowly. Yeah. If you're okay with this, you might sleep in the lower, and during the day you can go a little bit high, but over the night time you go down because of our energy use, yeah, because we don't eat at night and then eat a lot of sugar, and they don't want this huge fluctuation of energy of sugar, yeah. So they're going to happen anyway. So that's why if you're going to sleep a little bit down, a little bit lower, that will be more beneficial. And make sure you have a short exposure if you are trained and preparing yourself for 3 to 5 minutes to start with, and then you increase up to 10-15 minutes, and then slowly you can already start doing this exercise, the endurance, if you want to perform better and prepare yourself better. And so of course support yourself, you feel good hydration with different types of electrolytes and adequate sleep. So make sure you adapt it and your sleep is not disturbed, because sleep here is the #1 recovery for your brain and for your body in general, and your general well-being. So common side effects, depending on the person, depending on your age, depending on your underlying conditions, they're all different and they all have something. We all have something. If somebody thinks there is a Mr. or Mrs. perfection, I have a bad news. Yeah. If you just think that you're a Mr. or Miss Perfection, you're doubting. You just didn't met professional who find your imperfections. Sometimes better we don't want to know them, but we think they're absolutely fine, but they're not. But the good thing, they're that flexible. They can improve it and they can make it possible. So common side effects: mild fatigue, dizziness, headache after the sessions, sleeping disturbance, anxiety, sensitivity, so many different mood changes, temporal blood pressure spikes are common. It might go up and then down. So actually you get into a little bit chaotic, and recovery here reduce symptoms within the time. And recovery is very important. For after everything we need recovery. Physical activity, any stressful environment for our organism require good recovery. So rest, hydration and nutrition. So here we need special, a little bit better balanced diet, to make sure your glucose is stable. And again, our sensitivity depends on our microbiomes, will be so different, and our food list will be very individual. We need to reduce oxidative stress. There's different forms of antioxidants needed for you. Again, we all have slightly different needs for that. Light movement, stretching, breathing, exercising, hold your breath, deep breathe, and of course anti-inflammatory activities or omega-3 supplementation, and magnesium, very important. Magnesium, because magnesium plays a crucial role in production of energy and supporting mitochondria's health and well-being. So as a result, I can say that hypoxia is a powerful trigger for mitochondrial regeneration and for longevity and regeneration, detoxification, and then decluttering is mitochondria kingdom. They will have benefits for our energy production, for our mood stability, for stress resilience, and overall our health. We need to include all the risks again and again and again. We don't want to go to the hospitals to put this in your finger because of your severe inflammation, infection, cardiovascular, strokes and stuff like that. Guys, that's why have that, prepare it, and make sure you go for your ski trip, you go for your holiday, absolutely prepared and full of knowledge. If you have conditions like that, make sure you have a training 2-3 times per week, and you cut with recovery days. So 1 day of the stress usually require a few days of recovery. Usually one more advanced stress requires 2-3 days of recovery. So don't do it every single day, but if you are responding to that, so you need to do it and introduce it slowly. And of course, controlled hypoxia is a tool for longevity, is a tool for our health and for vitality and for overall health. That was it for today, and I hope I inspired you for upcoming skiing trip or mountain trips, and you will take it a little bit more seriously, and you spread this information between your friends and loved ones and the family who getting ready there or have some of underlying healthcare problems, and will be more careful, and we have saved more lives and reduce and be aware and live longer, happier life. Bye everyone.